Okay, well, within the framework of the economic reactivation process and the celebration of 10 years of the association agreement between Central America and the European Union, the Euro Chamber of Costa Rica, in collaboration with the European Union delegation in Central America, have organized this webinar aimed at European companies. One of the main objectives is the creation of more and better jobs, mainly in rural areas, hardest hit by unemployment and by the lack of opportunities for personal and community development. Our goal is to obtain results that can bring fruitful benefits to the progress of the national economy, as well as new opportunities for development and growth for investors in their traditional markets, and at the same time, an opening to new markets. This webinar will consist of an introductory part followed by the country presentation by SIND and Procomer. Then we have the Philips representative who will provide us with a report of the successful experience of the company she represents. And finally, we will have an answer and question session that our experts will answer. Now, I will give the floor to Mr. Giovanni Graziano, the President of Eurocamera and President of the Italian-Costa Rican Chamber of Commerce. Please, Giovanni.
Very much, Massimo. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you in Costa Rica and good afternoon to all of you in Europe. It is my pleasure to welcome you to what I hope will be a very valuable webinar on development and investment opportunities in Costa Rican free zones for all European companies, but in particular for those operating in agro industry, renewable energy, clean mobility, pharmaceutical, and medical devices. I also would like to give special thanks and a very warm welcome to our speakers, Mr. Massimo De Luca, Trade Policy Officer of the Delegation of the European Union in Costa Rica, Ms. Diana Salazar, Assistant Manager, Managing Director, Lead and Strategic Alliances of CINDE. CINDE is Costa Rica's investment promotion agency and is highly regarded in the world in its fields. Ms. Andrea Céspedes, Special Regime Director of Procomer, which is the agency in charge of promoting Costa Rican exportation of goods and services, and is also highly regarded as a trade promotion agency in the world. In addition, Ms. Marjorie Segura, Accounting Controller, Medical Devices, Philips, Costa Rica, would also be joining us. This webinar is brought to you by the Delegation of the European Union in Costa Rica and by Euro Chamber of Costa Rica, a non-profit organization created in September 2017 to serve as the Federation of the Binational Chambers of Commerce and Industry of Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, and Spain. Its mission is to promote commerce and direct investment between the member states and Costa Rica. We live in times of uncertainty. After more than 2 years of dealing with a very harsh pandemic that brought the world to a standstill, we were finally getting back on track. When Vladimir Putin's inhumane invasion of Ukraine took us back to Europe's darkest days, reminding us of the importance of respecting human rights and of not doing business with countries that oppress their own citizens and eventually end up oppressing their neighbors and the world at large. As Adam Smith stated in The Wealth of Nations, countries engaged in commerce prosper and create well-being for their citizens, provided they bring different and ideally complementary assets to the market. Humbly, I would like to add that this is not enough. Countries doing business must share certain basic and inalienable values, such as the respect of law, the respect of the environment, and above all, the respect of human life. A small nation in Central America called Costa Rica is one of those countries that lives by those values. This has not passed unnoticed by most of North American Fortune 100 companies, such as Intel and Amazon, to name a few. Many of these companies have for decades run successful operations in Costa Rican free zones. While major European companies like Philips and Bayer already run operations in Costa Rican free zones, the aim of this webinar is to increase European direct investment in Costa Rica, which in our opinion is underrepresented and which has tremendous potential for win-win situations. The main question in your mind today must be, why should I even consider Costa Rica as a destination for direct investment? In our opinion, there are 7 reasons why you should seriously consider Costa Rica. Number 1, its people. Costa Rica has a tradition of high levels of education and high quality of healthcare. Number 2, its land. Costa Rica is blessed with plenty of water, radiant sun, and great soils. Number 3, its location. Located between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans and between North and South America, provides a strategic platform for doing business in the Americas. Its access, number 4, its access to key foreign markets. Costa Rica has free trade agreements with the world's main trading partners. Number 5, its fiscal incentives, which are very competitive in the capital city, but even better in rural areas. Number 6, its values and stability. Costa Rica is a very stable liberal democracy, a leader and pioneer in sustainability, and has a solid tradition of freedom of speech and, above all, respect of human and legal rights. Number 7, Costa Rica is also known for its pura vida lifestyle, which means pure life lifestyle, which attracts not only millions of tourists, but also foreign residents. In fact, it is the only Latin American country with a migratory trade deficit with the US, as more Americans live in Costa Rica than Costa Ricans in the US on a per capita percentage basis. As you will discover in today's webinar, Costa Rica shares the same values as the EU. I hope you find the information in this webinar useful, and in the Eurochamber in Costa Rica, we are here to assist you in every way we can. Thank you for your time and attention.
Okay, now is the time for Mr. Massimo De Luca, representative of the European delegation in Central America.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and heartfelt thank you to Giovanni Graziano, to Massimo, to the Italian Chamber, and to the overall Eurochamber in Costa Rica. Indeed, it's a pleasure to be here today. It goes in line with what we as European Union delegation to Costa Rica, with the regional sections for cooperation and trade based here in San Jose, we are trying to do to promote sustainable trade and investment. I would like to greet you also on behalf of my ambassador, Mrs. Antonia Calvo, and at a particular time, because this year we mark 10 years of our main legal framework binding the two sides of the ocean, the Central America region and Costa Rica with it, and European Union, that is called Association Agreement. The trade pillar of the Association Agreement is fully in force and provides a set of very powerful tools when it comes to giving legal certainty to European operators coming to this part of the world. From that point of view, just always bear in mind that here in San Jose, you have a small but very committed team of colleagues that are really here to promote the full enforcement of the rights of European traders and investors. Now, under the association agreement, as I said, we celebrate 10 years of the signing. There is no special section on free trade zone as such, but clearly free trade zones come to prominence in a number of ways. First of all, because be reassured, the incentives that are given in free trade zones are there to be benefited from. There is nothing preventing really the full enjoyment of these rights. Quite the opposite. The association agreement states clearly that the incentives provided for under the free trade zone schemes of Central American countries need to be offered on non-discriminatory terms to European investors. Now, that's part of wider set of rules that you should bear in mind that in fact guarantee you not only duty-free access to Costa Rica and the region, but also special provisions on customs cooperations, on sanitary phytosanitary measures, on intellectual property rights protection, on regional integration. And regional integration is indeed an aspect that I think is very valuable because indeed it aims at giving European traders and investors a local market which goes beyond Costa Rica itself, but really goes up to Guatemala and down to Panama. In my little experience, I'm not going to give a really full presentation today, but just to share just a few personal experiences about free trade zones in this part of the world. First of all, we are carrying out right now an assessment of the impact of the association agreement. This assessment is called the impact study, ex post impact study, focusing on the years 2014-2019. They highlight the benefits of the association agreement with regards to free trade zones operation in the area. And in particular, there is a special case study on the Colón a free trade zone in Panama. Now, it also highlights the growing importance of Costa Rica as an area for free trade zones. That means that, yes, indeed, Panama has traditionally played a big role in terms of redistribution or distribution-based free trade zones. But the reality is that over the last few years, the importance of Costa Rica in terms of free trade zones has become really major, and competing with Panama in terms of trade redistribution. But there is an area, as Giovanni already said, where Panama is actually taking the lead. And the lead that Costa Rica is taking, the lead that Costa Rica is taking is in respect of manufacturing-based free trade zone. Certainly, there is nothing comparable to Costa Rica when it comes to manufacturing-based free trade zones. Now, these free trade zones, for the time being, are based on nearshoring concepts, meaning re-exporting to the European Union and mainly to the United States. However, the potential is there to expand the scope of free trade zones, and I hope we hear more today about expanding its free trade zones to areas of transformation of agricultural produce and other added value processes. Why the association agreement is important? Because the association agreement not only gives you the duty-free access, but also allows you to integrate the manufacturing process, meaning that if you import machinery or inputs from the European Union and integrate them in a manufacturing process aimed at developing products, agribusiness or industrial manufacturing, industrial, let's say, non-agricultural manufacturing, these products can still go back to Europe duty-free while keeping the Costa Rican origin. This is a scheme that is already in place with Costa Rica. We have really, you name it, producers of tripods and photographic equipment using this type of scheme. We have, of course, the well-known medical equipment sector. We have the pharmaceutical sector, using the possibility of integrating inputs in the value chain while not losing the origin of the good when it comes to our bilateral trade. I would also like to emphasize another aspect with that Giovanni already touched upon, which is the quality of the legal environment. Because indeed, Costa Rica already stands out in terms of quality of regulatory environment, allowing for investors to really to carry out processes like traceability processes, like due diligence processes, very effectively, really, with an environment which is very mature. And in this respect, really, I think that Costa Rica represents a safe environment for companies, based in Europe with a European law background. Also, I would like to dispel something that you may have heard, which refers to questioning of the European Union in terms of tax regimes in Costa Rica. And there is one issue that affects free trade zones in particular, which is the revenue from IT, like royalties, for example. We are indeed in the process of talking to Costa Rica to align provisions, tax provisions, with OECD principles. You know that Costa Rica has become a member of the OECD, but this part of the really discussion is absolutely normal. It's just a stage of adjustment of Costa Rica to OECD principles. So there is nothing really, I would say, to worry about, even if you deal with IP intense sectors. Which may well be the case for companies, for your companies. Let me finish just underlining the importance of our work with the Eurochamber. The Eurochamber is an umbrella organization established, as Giovanni said, in 2017. It really gathers all the EU bilateral chambers, and increasingly so we work together on priority sectors, on priority issues, mostly at regional level, but like today, also with a focus on specific countries like Costa Rica. We have tools in this respect that we would like also to share with you in due time. These include the ability of carry out studies, and we just published one on the state of renewable energy, and we had a wonderful debate with Giovanni at Eurochamber the day before yesterday, and where really the reasons of our investors were made quite clear to Costa Rica, and really we keep working for a better and an increasingly good and effective regulatory environment. So, and then we also have tools in the area of, let's say, grants and initiatives that aim at fostering sustainable green investment in the region. And there should be a call for proposals coming up on 28th of October. These proposals are not huge. I mean, these amounts are not huge as such. We are talking about, 300,000 euro per project, but they can be really catalytic, and they are meant to foster the multiplying effect of our working together, our ability to do things together that can really create the right platforms to advance our presence, but also in the interest, of course, of companies here in Central America, and with a special focus on small and medium-sized enterprises. So here we are in San Jose. Come and visit, and I wish you a wonderful event today.
Okay, well, now I have the pleasure to presenting you the speech given by the representative of CINDE and Procomer, Mrs. Diana Salazar and Andrea Cespedes.
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. It is a pleasure for CINDE to be here. We would like to thank the Euro Chambers and all the people involved in this event. It is a pleasure for us to share some more information on why Costa Rica is a hub for manufacturing and services operations. And as Don Massimo mentioned, we have a series of components that actually makes us a unique destination for investment. And hopefully we're going to open a first communication channel through this event. And we are at your service for any questions you might have on the free trade zone regime, on the different sectors that we take care of, and any kind of support that CINDE can give you as the organization in charge of attracting foreign direct investment to Costa Rica. I'm going to share my presentation. Hopefully this works. Don Massimo, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Just one moment. You are now the host.
Okay, let me see if it works. Can you see my screen and presentation now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, now I have it in full mode. All right. So to start, I'm going to give you some background information on CINDE. As mentioned before, we are the Costa Rican Investment Promotion Agency. We are about to be 40 years this year in supporting the country, being the right hand of the government in terms of attraction of foreign direct investment. Our mission is to contribute to the country's development through the attraction of foreign direct investment in what we call strategic sectors. And here I'm going to share with you some more information on those sectors. We are a private, nonprofit, non-political organization, and we're declared a public interest by the government of Costa Rica 2 years after our constitution in 1982. And as I said, we have a particular focus on what we call strategic sectors, which is the sectors that we actively promote and in which we have developed an expertise and, of course, a proven track record of companies setting up in Costa Rica and being able to develop what we call the different clusters and having the full service from suppliers, contract manufacturers, manufacturers of original equipment, services operations, every day more sophisticated services operations. So you're going to see the big array of opportunities that we have in the different sectors in Costa Rica. Our services are free for companies, which is very important. We work on a PPP, private-public partnership with the government through the Ministry of Foreign Trade and Procomer, which is here represented by Andrea today. And so we have been doing what we do not charging companies, but of course, receiving this full support from COMEX and Procomer to actually our operations, day-to-day operations. We have been ranked as the #1 investment promotion agency in the world by the ITC, which is part of the UN and the World Trade Organization, which makes us very proud, being a very small institution. We're now over 70 people. We used to be smaller, so that makes us very, very proud. In terms of the sectors, and this is just to give you a quick overview of the focus that we have on the different niches and verticals that we have been able to develop. As mentioned before, we have a proven track record on life sciences. In fact, this is the #1 product of exports in Costa Rica nowadays. And we have been very successful in attracting big names and the big OEMs or original equipment manufacturers to the country, but also all the ecosystem that conforms around it, from the suppliers, from the components, the contract manufacturers, and creating a very consolidated cluster of companies that are operating and also spilling over knowledge and expertise to the Costa Rican operations and suppliers as well. So here you can see we have a strong focus. At least this is what we have prioritized for our strategy for 2022. And we are very much focused, of course, on the niches or the subsectors you see here: cardiovascular, neuro, endovascular, orthopedics, but also pharma, biotechnology, diagnostics, and of course, as we go down, we would like to reach at some point more and more operations towards more sophisticated kind of processes and manufacturing like R&D. And that's something that we have to work collaboratively with the academia and the different stakeholders. That's something that we are looking to move into more and more. We also have the vertical of smart manufacturing, where we have the different industries that these components or devices can serve, like the aerospace, telecommunications, integrated circuits, semiconductors, which, as you may know, is a big topic right now. And there's a huge opportunity for Costa Rica, not only because we have Intel, but also because of the opportunity that opens with all the nearshoring and the supply chain constraints that countries have had. We also have the vertical on what we call health and well-being and light manufacturing, where we can have food industry, agro industry, where we would need the transformation of the raw materials that can be actually grown here in Costa Rica, as mentioned before, because of all the weather and the great conditions we have here. And how do we transform those into value-added products that can be exported to the final destinations from Costa Rica, taking advantage of the platform and the free trade zone agreements, agreements that we have with multiple countries. There we also have biomaterials, which is very important nowadays, not only for implantable devices in the human body, but also because more and more we have more clients that are very much concerned about the products that they consume and how these products can be eco-friendly, and of course having certain characteristics as well that make them superfoods, or all of this nature, biotechnology, science-based products for personal use and personal care, but also for the food industry and human consumption. We have the last two verticals are very much developed in the country. We see a lot and consistent growth, very rapid growth, because companies in the services sector can hire as many people, even and much more now with the pandemic and the virtual work environment. So we're seeing a big growth here. We have digital technologies where the companies are developing more and more sophisticated processes on tech support, software development, digital marketing, even cybersecurity, and more sophisticated processes like RPA, cognitive computing, analytics and insights, and all of that. Also on the corporate service perspective, where we have the different verticals within a services company, from finance to procurement to HR management to the more sophisticated processes, as I mentioned, like data analytics and also a cognitive computer and the like. So we have seen a consistent growth. Of course, the digital technologies world in the whole world is actually very challenging in terms of talent development, because more and more we have new technologies and more sophisticated technologies. So we have to work hand in hand with the academia, and that is what we have been doing to guarantee that we can have the talent that is needed to fulfill these more sophisticated operations. And in terms of corporate services, we have seen that companies that come to Costa Rica have also taken advantage of the ecosystem and the knowledge to create more consolidated centers of excellence, where they have the experience and even are even exporting best practices to the corporate and other facilities of the companies from Costa Rica, with process improvement and new process development, which speaks very much and positively about the talent that we have in Costa Rica, which was mentioned also before. Very quickly, seeing the services so you know how we can support you if you were in the process of analyzing and running the due diligence process in Costa Rica. We, again, for free, support companies in assisting them through the site selection process and the whole investment cycle. We even have a personalized or tailor-made, customized analysis that we can run on the interest that you have. See if it's a manufacturing company, how we can put together the pricing, the cost from a cost perspective, from a salary perspective, the benefits, how they compensate your business case on the free trade zone regime, and all of that can be custom made for each particular company. We also meet investors' information needs, and also meeting with the government authorities, the universities, whoever that needs to be a source of information for this decision-making process. CINDE facilitates all that support. We also provide specialized support when it comes to expansion projects. Once the companies are here, diversification into other sectors, cross-selling within sectors. So that's also something we take care of. And of course, we also have a very robust ecosystem that supports, depending on the expertise, the whole journey of a company in making the decision and setting up, growing and diversifying in Costa Rica, where we have attorneys that are very experienced. We have we've been working with multinationals. We have accounting. We have headhunters and HR, environmental permitting experts, banks, and many more that can support those processes. Here are some numbers on Costa Rica for those of you who might be new to this small but very rich at the same time country. We are a population of over 5.2 million people, with a labor force, active labor force of 2.4 million people, a very high percentage of adult literacy rate, as you can see, almost 98%. We've seen, of course, due to the pandemic, some changes in our unemployment rate, but luckily that is improving and has been improving over the last year. And exports of goods, exports of services, and very much in growing GDP as well, due to all this development, and that actually translates into the benefit and well-being of our population. And that is CINDE's mission in the end, is to support and to impact the well-being of our population. Very quickly, I wanted to let you know that CINDE has been revising and improving and working on making the most out of our differentiating factors as a country. And how does Costa Rica position when it comes to comparing to our competitors? But how do we take advantage of those components that might have been used for tourism purposes, like the eco and the sustainability portion, towards investment? And that is something very important because, as said on the introduction, companies and consumers more and more are looking into sustainability in everything, in whatever they consume, they buy. at the operations that they run, how are they impacting the environment, and of course, Costa Rica, having this proven track record of sustainability and protection of the environment is something that we need to take advantage of. And we've done that by analyzing what is the challenge that companies are facing right now. Of course, they need to leverage and integrate multiple sources of data. They have to develop solutions that are more relevant to their clients, human-centered type of products and services. They also have to see greater efficiencies across channels, maximize personalization. And so there comes a paradigm where companies have to choose whether to grow at any cost or whether to grow in the most efficient and sustainable way. And that is where Costa Rica we consider to be the right partner to reach sustainable productivity and to drive investment with purpose. Not only do we have the human talent, but we have been able, CINDE, along with the other institutions, to create this whole ecosystem that is going to support the establishment, but also the growth and diversification of companies in the country, where human talent, sustainability, and technology are the pillars of this growth and success. As I said, it's all converging. We have a dynamic mix of converging technologies, capabilities, and for the challenges that we face, because we have been, as we call it, a victim of our success, we have had to be creative on creating the conditions and working with the universities and developing the talent and the conditions in the country as a whole to support a day-to-day challenge, but also an opportunity of these leading companies in the world that have a presence in Costa Rica, that are actually leading the transformation and the digital changes in the world, and we have them here sitting in our country and making all those huge changes from Costa Rica to the world. And that's something that we value very much, and we try to get the most out of that ecosystem. So this new way of seeing our value proposition, as we call it, for Costa Rica and for seeing the attracting investors is a triple bottom line that is based on people, planet, and prosperity. So the people factor we have already talked about. We have Costa Rica provides a dynamic platform of talent development aligned with the market needs. We work very hard on identifying a gap and trying to fill those gaps by working with the academia hand in hand. In terms of prosperity, ecosystem, and cross-sector collaboration, again, we have companies that are not just operating in a single vertical, but also cross-selling and collaborating with different other sectors and looking for more opportunities, manufacturing towards services, services towards manufacturing, and converging technologies even within companies. And the third one, which is very important as well, is the planet, sustainable development, and linked to productivity. As I mentioned before, we are an ally in terms of generating impact to achieve sustainable development goals, not only because our electricity matrix comes almost 100% from renewable sources, but also because we have been able to house many companies that are working on different strategies to leverage all these components on sustainability and sustainable operations from Costa Rica. In the pillar of people, I think we have already covered all of the important factors for an investor coming to the country. Our education system is free and mandatory since 1870. We are by constitutional mandate allocating almost 8% of our GDP towards education. So we consider that, and also health, to be the pillars of our national stability. We have very well ranked in different positions like human talent, skills and quality education, digital skills, English proficiency. So you can see here, and this is just to summarize how our talent is our #1 and key factor for companies looking to operate in Costa Rica. More and more, we have higher levels of instruction in the labor force. And not only are we making sure that the population is educated on the right skills and the right careers, but also that we keep up to speed with certifications, technical knowledge that actually support these operations of these huge companies in Costa Rica. We're #1 in human capital in Latin America, and as I said, not just because of the literacy rates, but also how fast we move towards changing the programs and making sure that they are aligned with the company and market trends. In terms of productivity, you might hear that Costa Rica can be a little bit more expensive than our neighbors, and that is actually compensated through the productivity and the higher levels of productivity that we see here in our labor force. Very fast learners, eager to learn, very, the learning curves are really, really short when you compare us to some of the competitor countries, and that has to do, that impacts the productivity that the companies see in Costa Rica. We have a very robust, education sector, not only in terms of universities, but also technical education is very important in Costa Rica. We have strong technical high schools and learning, a National Learning Institute that's called INA, that work hand in hand with companies to tailor-make their programs to make sure that they get the talent that they need. So this is something, just numbers that you can see later on how we perform in terms of graduates from the specialties that we need. We also rank we're very well positioned in terms of English proficiency in the region, and also a top innovation achiever in terms of innovation outputs, cultural, creative, and information technology service exports, and innovation in general in Latin America. Just to summarize, because I think I'm running out of time, the pillar of people, I think you've seen we have worked very hard on developing the skills. I must say that during the pandemic, although we also saw very important challenges in unemployment and laying off of talent, we tried to take advantage of people having the time to actually access to some of online training services. So they could, and hand in hand with the government through scholarships, we were able to take advantage of the situation with the pandemic to try to actually make people get trained, upskilled and reskilled during the time of the pandemic. In terms of planet, I've already mentioned electricity coming from renewable sources, an important part of our territory covered by forests. We have 6% of the world's biodiversity, which is very important for companies looking to develop biotechnology and a health and well-being kinds of services. We have very important and high quality raw materials also from in Costa Rica that you can access and transform. We have key players when it comes to companies looking to operate on their renewable electricity sources, as I already mentioned. And of course, quality of life, which is very important for companies, not only because of having their expats or personnel coming down to Costa Rica for at least the transition of the operation, but also you can run your business freely. You don't have to partner with the government or anybody else, and that's something that provides, as Don Massimo was mentioning, a certainty in terms of our systems and our securities for investors. And prosperity, which is the last pillar. I've already talked about converging technologies, how we can guarantee a redundancy in terms of infrastructure. We have the tax incentives, which is also a tool that has supported the establishment of these companies in Costa Rica. We have, and I didn't mention it before, we have been able to attract over 350 multinational companies to the country, 41 of them being Fortune 500 companies, which speaks very much positively about the conditions and the opportunities that we have for diversification and growth in Costa Rica. These companies, over 350 companies are employing over 160,000 people. And not only, as I said, are they employing these people, but also providing opportunities for training, for specialization, and of course, this spills over to the local context and the ecosystem as well. I'm going to share this presentation with you. If you requested, we can definitely share it so you can see the details. But here you can see the different subsectors and the big names and the big players that we have within the different verticals. We have companies that have set up since the 80s, some newer companies. And as I said, last year we closed with record numbers. Although we were impacted by the pandemic, that was very positive for Costa Rica in terms of the resilience that we were able to show during the pandemic. Inflows of FDI are very important for the country's development. As I said, our medical devices is the #1 product of export, and we are exporting over 1,800 products to 150 destination countries, and of course exporting sophisticated and knowledge-intensive services as well, which is also very, very important. Multilingual capabilities, as I mentioned, covering and serving different markets from Costa Rica, and also a growing trend in terms of life sciences sophistication in the types of process products that we are exporting. As you can see, we started with disposables, and with time we have been moving up the ladder, now moving towards therapeutic and diagnostics devices and equipment, which again speaks very much positively about the diversification opportunities in Costa Rica. Just to close, I wanted to reiterate that during the pandemic, we were able to position Costa Rica, not only because of the great results that we had, although it was a negative context for everybody in the world, but we were actually ranked as the #1 country for Greenfield FDI performance by Financial Times, by FDI Intelligence, which again, speaks very much positively about how well connected and integrated we are to global value chains, how we didn't experience any disruption of exports and imports coming for the operation of these companies. And in fact, we were able to sustain a lot of the operations of these companies. Corporate-wise, they saw Costa Rica as this very good success story of resilience during the time of the pandemic. Preferential access to market, I think that Andrea can talk a little bit more about the trade agreements, I'm sorry, that we have with different countries, but that's also a platform that a company setting up in Costa Rica can take advantage of. And just to close, 2 more slides. Just to briefly let you know, we can give you all the details if you want. We have a free trade zone regime, which is a set of fiscal incentives that can provide services and manufacturing companies with up to 0% corporate income tax exemption. And also another series of tax incentives, but also raw materials imports and local purchases that can be a big benefit for the local operation and for the business case as a whole operating from Costa Rica. And as Don Giovanni mentioned, we have differentiated benefits for companies going out of the greater metropolitan area, which is in many cases where we have for at least agro and agro-industrial companies where we have the raw materials and access to the raw materials from these regions as well. So I think I took a few more minutes, but hopefully this information was helpful. And again, we're here to support and to provide any detailed information after the webinar.
Okay, well, thanks, Diana. Now I will give the floor to the representative of Philips Medical, Ms. Yesenia Segura.
Just a second, Mr. Massimo. I'm going to share a couple of slides previously to the pharmaceutical company.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay, don't worry. So I'm going to share my screen. Just a second. Please, Don Massimo, could you allow me to
I'm trying to do
as
it.
a host. Thank you.
Right. I don't see the option now. Just a moment.
It's okay.
I don't see the option for you to give you the host rights like I
No.
did before with Diana.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm getting a message
Or
here.
give me the rights back, please.
I think it's yes, I have to do it. I'm sorry. Just a second. No, I don't have the option.
On top on the right.
No.
Because I don't see the option to give host rights to anyone now.
Let me see. Okay, I think I have it here. Here you go. Andrea, you should be the host now.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm going to share my screen. Just a second, please. Let me see. I think you're already seeing my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Hi, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be with you in this presentation. So for us, it's very important to share some topics. With no more than 20,000 square meters and with 5 million people, we have achieved an adult literacy rate of 98%. Also, beyond that, we are a proud country that runs almost 100% of renewable energy, as Diana mentioned before. Besides that, it's very important to know that since our early history, we have been open to international trade. Our first exports were executed in 1820 with one of the best known products of Costa Rica, coffee. And by the 1960s, we signed our first trade agreement with our closest neighbors, and we became part of the Central American Common Market. By the middle of the 90s, we became part of the World Trade Organization. At this point, we have signed free trade agreements with more than 50 countries, more or less. And recently, as Don Massimo remarked, we became part of the OECD. Our value proposition is built on our prime location. We are in the middle of the Americas, bordered by 2 oceans and with a strategical time zone that allow us to really reach almost to any time zone. And as I mentioned before, the 98% of Costa Ricans adults are literate. Also, as I explained earlier, Costa Rica is very connected to the world with existing trade agreements. Since 1990, we have established many free trade zones as an effective way to enhance investments, promote exports, and stimulate the Costa Rican economy. Our country is one of the most stable democracies in the world. It strongly supports institutional law, meaning that what is established by law is not easy to modify. The reputation of Costa Rica is one of our biggest assets. We are known as a country that supports democracy, peace, the rule of law, and sustainable development. In this graph, it's important to see how the Costa Rican industries have evolved. Initially, we started with simple processes, and now our companies are developing more and more value-added processes. To show you an example, here are 4 industrial sectors that have driven this evolution in life sciences that Diana explained before. Costa Rica ranks first exporter of medical devices per capita and second largest in Latin America. We have the presence of 7 global cardiovascular leaders in pharmaceutical sectors, class 1 to class 3, medical devices, and components biotech. For the smart manufacturing, Costa Rica ranks first exporter in Latin America of high technology goods. And we paid on productivity relationship in second place in Latin America. We have industries related with aeronautics, aerospace, smart and green vehicles, as electronic also devices, rocket propulsion, and more. In terms of food industry, Costa Rica ranks first exporter of golden pineapple and the 3rd exporter of banana in the world. Also, we have products related with organic, natural, carbon neutral superfoods, unique specialty foods. And we host 5 of the top 25 food processing companies globally. And for the service sector, it's very important to remark that we rank the first in human capital and digital skills of population in Latin America. And we have also companies related with multifunctional activities and multilingual. More than 70 different businesses and processes are developing here in Costa Rica, related with cloud computing, IoT, data analytics, cognitive computing, and more activities. We are the home of the best. 350 companies choose Costa Rica for their Latin American headquarters. This is just a show of the economic diversity that we already have here in Costa Rica developing activities. In terms of the Costa Rican exports data, this chart doesn't include tourism, but as you can see, when you look the 2021 bar, the amount is twice what it was in 2011. As you can see also, this trend has steadily grown since 2007. In terms of the exports relevance for Costa Rica, the proportion of the GDP, Costa Rica ranks the 3rd behind only Germany and South Korea. And compare this with the OECD countries, the average that we rank is in the 1st place. The export sectors provides more than $20 billion, employees more than 600,000 people. Our goods reach more than 150 countries, and all of these statistics from approximately 3.2 thousand companies. Taking a deeper look, as I mentioned in the previous slide, export sectors generates more than 600 jobs, and from 140,000 comes from the free zone regime. And in 2020, the 43% of those jobs employs women. This chart shows how goods have evolved since 1965, when Costa Rica started to play more active role in the international commerce. You can see the yellow chart that represents how the agricultural products decreased decade by decade, and we became a country as more diversification products. This chart represents the detail of the colorful chart that we saw already. You can see here the 20 largest importers of Costa Rican goods around the world. The North America ranks actually the first, and with the 46% of the total Costa Rican exports. And Europe Union ranks the second with the 20% of the Costa Rican exports. And as I mentioned earlier, we have established free trade zone regime as a very effective way to enhance investment, promote exports, and stimulate the Costa Rican economy. But what is the free zone regime? Actually, is a set of incentives and benefits granted by Costa Rican government to those companies that comes to Costa Rica to develop an activity. And we have activities which are allowed. Those are manufacturing in strategic sectors, traders, services in strategic sectors, park administrators. But also we have some activities that are not allowed to be developed under the free zone regime, which are banking, financial and insurance services, legal and professional services, mining, arms production, and electrical plants. When companies granted under the free zone scheme, they have to comply with specific compromises. Those compromises are established under the law, and those are a minimum level of employment, minimum level of investment to comply with the obligation that are specified in the admission agreement. They have to present annually an operational reports to Procomer, pay to Procomer the monthly canon for being part of the regime, and comply with the customs procedures. Besides that, these companies get some very important benefits or incentives. They would enjoy exemptions in what? Well, income tax, withholding tax, local government tax, value-added tax, customs imports tax, property transfer tax, and capital gains tax. Doing a scope of the free zone regime statistics in the bars of your left screen, in your screen, you can see detailed the quantity of the companies by sector established in the regime the last 5 years. Actually, the light gray is for agro-industrial companies. The purple one is for the industrial sector. The magenta is for services sector, and the dark gray is for park administrators. The trend shows an annual average growth of 5%. They generate the 12% of the Costa Rican GDP, which is very important for us. Also promotes productive linkages with the 52% of the FTC purchases comes directly from local providers. These industries keeps its operations during a period of 11 years approximately. And the last but not the least, FTC sectors provides $9.3 billion to social institutions. And just to finalize my presentation, I would like to share with you a very memorable quote of Joseph Stiglitz, who is Nobel Prize laureate in economics. Development has not to do with transformation of people's life, not just with the transformation of economies. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Andrea. And I apologize for my previous mistake with Andrea and Yesenia. But now, yes, I give the floor to Ms. Yesenia Segura of Philips Medical.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon to all of you. Okay, I did a presentation like this, but I would like to tell you that as a Philips representative, that Philips started in Costa Rica in 2015 through the acquisition of one company that has the manufacturing site in Costa Rica. And from that, we started a process of growing in Costa Rica. That continues today. We continues growing. In 2020, we increased the operation in Costa Rica with an investment of new building, and we became in a multi-modality site Okay, it's the first of Philips. And I would like to say also that as a Costa Rican professional, I feel very proud of working of this kind of company. I don't know if you want to ask something.
Well, if anyone has any question, we can now come to the question and answer session. The same, if some of you has any question, please, we have here our experts that will answer. No one has questions. Maybe Mr. Neftali Garro can add something about the legal perspective of the free trading zone.
Well, Massimo, I'm sorry, I think we have a question on the chat from Gustavo Adilla.
Okay. How has been Philip's experience with Costa Rica talent pool? Okay.
I think the main point that Philips has grown in Costa Rica is the talent. Yeah, so because if Philips had found in Costa Rica very good professionals, and also we in the last years we exported some professionals to another plants in the world. For example, Natalia Mendez is now the medical devices head. She has 15 manufacturing sites around the world. And also we have the director of supply chain. Now she's located, I think, in Pittsburgh. And yeah, we can say like 10 examples like this. So for Philips, it was a really good experience.
Okay, thanks for your reply. Any other question? So, well, maybe if Mr. Neftali maybe want to add something about the legal perspective of the free trading zones.
Sure. Thank you, first of all, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you to the EU delegation, to CINDE, to Procomer, to Eurocamera for putting this together. Not really a lot to add, but perhaps from my perspective on the legal side, something that often raises concerns or questions on the part of companies, for example, in Europe, looking all the way across the Atlantic to a place like Costa Rica is, what is the legal system like? Is there certainty? Is there rule of law? I would say that the short answer in Costa Rica is that there definitely is. If anything, and I think that goes a little bit to a question that was also raised in the chat by Gerardo Venegas. If anything, sometimes outside the realm of Procomer and CINDE, which are extremely efficient organizations, sometimes you will run into a little bit of bureaucracy. I think that is something that is normal. Certainly, Europeans also complain of that themselves at home. But overall, the legal system is, again, very safe, very predictable. Costa Rica's legal system, as you know, is based on European or continental civil law, based on originally on a civil code that was more or less drawn from the Spanish tradition, which in turn was drawn from the French tradition. So it's not anything extremely different from what you might find back at home. We have, again, very stable institutions. We've had free and democratic elections for over 70 years now. We have an independent judiciary, which is, of course, key to this sort of question. And so really, I would say, if anything, the challenges, again, as pointed out in Gerardo's question, sometimes have to do with agility, making sure that processes run smoothly. Again, having had the experience of working with Procomer and Cindy on many of these projects and applications, and it's not because they are here today. I think it's well recognized, not only in Costa Rica, but all over the world. These agencies are extremely efficient. They certainly exceed the average, at least in Costa Rica, in terms of the ease with which companies can do business and apply for the free zone status. And in areas such as, for example, sanitary permits or registrations, there are some initiatives to reduce those times. A decree was passed late last year. I think it's still a work in progress in terms of operations, but for certain food products and certain low-risk cosmetics, to make the process more agile, essentially an online process. And actually, in the context of the current elections, which, as many of you know, are pending a runoff round in April, both candidates that are running into or that are participating in this runoff have also addressed the need to propose certain reforms or amendments to many of these processes to make them more agile. So I would certainly expect that something along those lines will materialize in the next government. So I'll leave it there. Just a general statement on the question of rule of law, which is important. And again, thank you all for participating and for the invitation to be here with you today.
Thanks, Neftali. We have another question in the chat, and it's about the port structure in Costa Rica in comparison with Panama. I don't know if Cindy or Procomer, they want to answer.
Maybe I can complement or give some data on the conditions of Costa Rica. We know that Panama is also a country that has put a lot of effort and resources on their infrastructure. But we have been doing some improvements and very important milestones as well, like the setup of APM port, APM terminals in the Caribbean. Something that's very important is that we have access to both coasts or both oceans, and we have ports in both. And over 70% of the exports are done through the Atlantic. Being so small, with ports in the Pacific and Atlantic, presents a great opportunity for companies exporting from Costa Rica, and you can move from one port to another very quickly within 6-hour period from one to another. So I think that we still have some work to do, of course, particularly in the Pacific side, on the Pacific side, and the port that we have there. But given the entrance of operations and this new infrastructure that we have in the Atlantic through APM terminals has put us on the map, definitely. And of course, being an European investment behind this huge project of APM terminals gives us a huge advantage. And I think that's also something very positive for the future and the present in terms of ports and infrastructure.
Thanks, Diana. I don't see any more questions in the chat. So I believe that we reached the end of this webinar. I hope that for all of you, it was interesting and that it was able to provide you with the basis to get to know the free trading zone of Costa Rica just a little better. At this point, if you have any other kind of question, or if you want deeper information, or if you need a different kind of information provided during this webinar, you can contact your local Chamber of Commerce, or you can send an email to the email projectos@eurocameracr.com. I will put the email address in the chat now. So what I can say that I have to thanks to all of you, all the company that participated, all the speakers, and it was a pleasure to stay with you this time. And I believe that my voice is the voice of all the participants to this webinar. At the end, I have to say that we hope to see you soon in Costa Rica. Thanks
Thank
to
you
all.
very much for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
If someone wants the registration, can send an email. I will send the link to download the registration of the webinar.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Bye.